I am not a student anymore, so it's time to make some real games. Throughout my 3 years of game development, which is actually not a lot, I created dozens of prototypes that are mostly pretty bad, but those same prototypes made me a better game dev. Sure, I tried creating a lot of commercial games and ended up not finishing any of them like any other game developer, but maybe the crushing realization of potential bankruptcy and the actual disappointment of my peers can finally break this repeating nightmare. Game. Let's see. Okay. I may be able to do this, yeah. If I think about horror, I think about indie. Of course, many AAA studios make successful horror games as well, but they are either heavily funded or are a continuation of an IP, like Amnesia or Resident Evil. Mostly both. If you lurk on YouTube like me, you may see a lot of horror games getting popular seemingly for no reason at all, besides it just being horror. Just look at the previous couple months. We had Exit 8, To Fathom, Poppy Playtime Chapter 3, which may now be seen as a AA studio, Buckshot Roulette, which isn't even on Steam yet, and best example of all time, Lethal Company of course.
What?
So horror games is the go-to, but with all that information on the internet, don't just think you're gonna make $1 million for making a horror game. You're not that guy, pal.
You're not that guy. Okay.
I already have a vague idea of what I want to make as a horror game. I like horror games like To Fathom, Amanda the Adventurer, and The Convenience Store, because they all have that very old PS1 style, and I want to do that as well. I never really looked into shaders that much. Most of the prototypes I made looked like this, but it's going to be interesting. First of all, we need to create a project. Unity is my engine of choice because it's literally the only one I know. I ripped some movement code from another small project I created a long time ago, and now we have a simple movement controller. One of the things all those horror games have in common is the ability to pick things up and throw it away. So I quickly implemented that, but we can already see a huge problem. If I pick up a huge box, it clips through the camera because it's too big. To counter that, I rescale the bigger items to be bound to a cube. Let's see if that works. That's not okay. Okay, let's now see if it works. Perfect. Feels very static right now, so let's add a simple sway to make the movement of the player a bit more interesting. Okay, so my idea for this game is about a regular job that gets thrown into a scary situation. More specifically, you are a tram conductor, and to earn some extra cash, you decide to work the night shift. But if you think that's scary, I am from Belgium, and if you ever tried public transport here, then you know that the scariest part is probably the schedule. So that's why I will care little about the schedule part of the tram and focus more on the real problem: sketchy people on the tram during the night shifts. Anyways, we need a tram, so I created a very simple platform with a dashboard. You can easily enter the dashboard mode and then you can do stuff with your mouse. For now, this dashboard has a lever for the movement, a switch for the headlights, and a button for the bell. It works well, besides, the player doesn't really move with the platform, so I fixed that really quickly. Maybe you didn't notice yet, but trams drive on tracks. I mean, they're not really tracks, they're more like slits in the ground, but same thing. An easy way to put my platform on a track is by using splines. Luckily, Unity has a spline solution that should include a way to create procedural tracks by tiling a single train track piece and a way for the platform to move onto the spline. Well, that didn't work. So I looked for a different spline solution and now it works perfectly. I linked the speed variable of the lever to the tram and now I can move the tram onto the spline. This solution also had a wagon script built in for some reason, so now we can easily add extra components as well. Look at them go. The tram is way too silent and a generic looping sound effect of a tram is not going to cut it. So I made a system that progressively changes the sound of the tram based on the speed. Here you can see it in action. Also, a very distinctive detail about trams is that when you do any kind of rotation, it always screeches very loudly, especially those very old ones. I mean, to be fair, those old ones need to be destroyed because they're like saunas in the summer and the seats are way too small. I implemented a system so that when the tram turns ever so slightly, the tram screeches a little bit. Okay, I really like the tram system, but to actually check out if I can make the game visually somewhat interesting, I have to work on some shaders. The first thing I definitely want to add is fog, and not that white fog from Silent Hill, but the very dark and ominous one. And there you go. I also quickly made the game into a 480p format. Not only is it infinitely more performant, but it also resembles a low quality VHS camera without adding a pixel shader. Before adding any other shader onto the camera, I want to see to what extent basic post-processing can do the art style justice. I added some basics like color toning, bloom, chromatic aberration, lens distortion, and a couple others, and it looks quite nice. I would be happy enough if I didn't know the power of shaders, but I know the power of shaders, so we're not stopping here. First of all, I want to add some kind of compression, so I stumbled upon posterization, which is basically a way to simplify colors. I mean, it takes like all the colors like a gradient and it makes it one color. Besides the posterization, I was a bit stuck on the fog again. It feels way too claustrophobic. I don't want to give the player too much information about the surroundings, but I also want to know what's going on. So to partially fix that, I added the skybox on top of the fog again. You may think, Luxo, why not just use a Unity one? Fair enough. But now I can show the skybox for 60% by using the shader. I also added massive structures so you can see the silhouettes in the sky, just as an example. I actually wanted to stop the video right here, but I was very much into the flow, so I added a couple other things as well. First of all, I added a complete dialogue system, and I think it turned out perfectly. I made a little NPC and you can interact with them. It looks okay right now, but not perfect. So I changed the text to be buried under all the shaders we created today, and it looks way better. Besides the 525 errors I got when building the game, it looks good. By looking at some other game dev videos of other creators who demonstrated their take on the PS1 graphics, I stumbled upon a open source volumetric lighting solution. Volumetric lighting was already on my mind because I need it for the horror aesthetic, so I added it and it's actually worked perfectly. I don't know anything about the performance, but it looks great for now, so it's fine. Well, you probably thought we were done now, right? No, not yet. I learned even more about how the PS1 style can be replicated and ended up adding 3 more shaders. It may feel like a bit too much and it may already be that way, but it looks cool, so it's fine. I added scan lines, RGB shifts, and a little bit of TV distortion. Oh yeah, by the way, I also added a simple camera bobbing script using science. It makes the movement look way more dynamic. Okay, you probably have seen some flickering of lights every now and then. Yes, me too. So I tried a very quick fix to get rid of that and didn't work, no. And now I'm very scared that there's something fundamentally wrong with my project. Let's not hope for that. So yeah, I really like the results and I ended up creating all of this in less than 2 weeks. I initially thought about releasing this game in 3 months, but I want to do marketing as well, of course. I don't intend to release this game to a room of empty chairs, so I will not put a date on it yet. But yeah, by the way, you can fill a chair by subscribing. Yeah, it's free, so limited time offer. Anyways, I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.